Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. It's a Thursday. The Patriots engaged in a walkthrough today. I'd say about 75 minutes they were out there, so not a lot of activity. There was on-field news, however, Phil. Big Mac Hollins, 6'4" wideout who had 37 catches last year for the Buffalo Bills, once had 57 for a Josh McDaniels-led team out in Las Vegas, was on the field. He's off a PUP list. We're going to get to him a little bit more later. Phil has a lot of thoughts on that and the wide receiver room in general. But first, we had access to Drake Maye, and I decided to go where you probably ought not go. I asked him about the fact that he hasn't thrown a pick yet. Here's Drake.
What is that?
You know how in baseball you're not supposed to talk about it when a pitcher has a no-hitter?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Does the same thing apply if a guy's gone through 6 practices and training camp and hasn't thrown a pick?
You know, I think it's one of those things where I'm trying to take care of the football, and maybe they could have had a few here and there. I think Pep May should have had one on the first, practice. I joke with him about it, but yeah, I think that's a goal of ours to take care of the football, and I think, not trying to, like I said, throw off the perfect game or no hitter, but I think that's part of it. I'm not scared to throw it. I'm still not gun shy, so.
All right, Phil, gotta love to hear that, because that's something we've been talking about, the fact that he has not been gun shy, and I've mentioned it a few times, something I observed long time ago, back in 2002. Tom Brady was trying to find out in his second season, what can I get away with here? And I think that's something that every quarterback has to learn after that first year of trying to get their feet in the water and flop around the shallow end with the swimmies on the arms. Can I swim in this water?
Well, do you think he maybe got some of that out of his system as a rookie? Because right now, he's taking really good care of the football. I mean, he brought up an example, I think, I don't know if it's humility or what, to bring up the fact that, it hasn't been perfect. Jabril Peppers almost picked me off on day one. It was like 2 weeks ago. Like, he's thrown a lot of passes that have been in competitive situations since then, and we could count on one hand, maybe a couple of fingers, the number that might have been picked off. That's actually,
it's really amazing when you think about that, because he is throwing to what we would not call the most electric group of receivers in terms of getting open. He's throwing against good corners for the most part, even though the two top guys have been out, but a capable defense. It's pretty astounding. It's locked.
I would think it's probably some of that, but I would think, Tom, he's thrown about, we could go back and check the numbers, but it's got to be somewhere close to 60-ish competitive passes over 6 competitive practices. And to have 0 picks, to me, is certainly noteworthy, because we've also seen some of those other throws, the down-the-field throws. He's not just been a check-down Charlie. The off-platform rollout throws, and they've either been in the right place, or when he's missed, and he has missed. I thought a couple of days ago, Tom, he had some spray misses. So I don't know if you got to get like some more talcum powder down the pants of your centers there. You're dealing with some wet footballs there. We've seen that before. Tom Brady, the aforementioned Tom Brady, used to hate it when the football would get a little slippery, slimy, grimy under there.
Well, especially because of where the moisture emanated from.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that was the situation that propped up the other.
Scientifically known as Assius swampius.
Yes. But whatever the reason, thank you, Jeremy. Tom needed that for the ego. He was missing wide and missing high, and the misses weren't all that close. But you'd rather have that than have it end up in the hands of the defense.
Yeah, and Phil has made mention of this, and we continue to watch it, and Drake did talk about this. He's an equal opportunity thrower at this point. He is getting used to the guys that he's throwing to, in large part, not just because it's only his second year, but because Steph Diggs is new to him, because Efton Chisholm is new to him. All of these guys, especially in a different offense, even if he played with them, like Jalen Polk or Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas, it's different and it's new. So he doesn't know who he can most rely upon. Do you feel that over the course of time, he will come up with his preferred locales?
I think that's only natural. And my guess is you're going to see a lot of targets for Stephon Diggs. You're going to see a lot of targets for Pop Douglas, because those guys get open, Tom. They create separation, right? It might not be down the field, but in the short area, those are generally speaking a little bit easier throws. If they can do that quickly off the line, that's going to earn them a lot of attention. And the other name I think we should mention in this conversation is Hunter Henry. Now, he's not going to create as much separation as those guys, but there might not be a guy on the roster who's more dependable than Hunter Henry. And then the rest of them, I think Drake Maye is confident enough in himself. It's interesting. The more we talk about this, the more I think about it. I think he has some trust in guys like Kyle Williams and Kayshon Boutte, but I think he just, maybe even more so, just trusts himself, and he trusts his own arm to such a significant degree that when he throws up a football to a tightly covered receiver, he's thinking to himself, well, I'll put that in the right spot where only he can get it, and we'll end up with an explosive. Don't worry, I got this.
Right.
I think he is that confident in his own ability, and he should be. And it's one of the reasons why he was taken 3rd overall.
Good example of that is something we've talked about for the last couple of days. One of the highlight plays at camp was a downfield throw to Kyle Williams, dropped it in the bucket, and Kyle Williams spoke today about the fact that, hey, as a rookie, I'm going to make some mistakes, but Drake does come back to us. Is that basically a good synopsis?
That's a pretty good synopsis of it, and I think, the rookie appreciates that.
Here it comes.
How much does it mean to you, Kyle, that Drake does trust you enough to throw it to you in those types of situations?
I mean, it means a lot. I feel like that just shows that I'm capitalizing on the opportunities that I'm given, and hopefully more can come my way, but that's all out of my control, so I'm just doing what I can do.
You had a moment a couple practices ago, earlier this week, where had a ball hit your hands, ends up going in. It looked like there might have been a play where you're trying to execute a block on a screen or something like that.
Yeah.
Might have actually been for a Drake run. How do you overcome those moments within a practice to come back and make a play? Because I think it was soon after that you made the play deep down the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you got to have short-term memory with certain things. I mean, those plays you don't want to happen, God forbid those, but it's all about the next play. Can you wipe it off, shed it off, and then go make a play next play? Say your best play is always your next play. So, and after practice, I try to clean up those mistakes watching film. I try to never let anything bad happen like that, but if it does, I mean, it happens, so we got to move on and make a better play.
I like that perspective.
I do too.
Wide receiver we spoke to yesterday who did not want to look back at things that went wrong and try and spruce it up and move on to the next play. Didn't even want to talk about the fact that it happened. Be that as it may, let's talk again and still about the wide receiver group. And there's a reason for that. Yeah, it's a skill position, and we do like the ball handlers, but the competition continues to be intriguing, and Mack Hollins returning from PUP and getting on the field. He not only provides the biggest wide receiver target out there at 6'4", about 220, by far their biggest wideout, but he also is a core special teamer. He played, as I alluded to, with Josh McDaniels in 2022, had 57 catches. You could say Kendrick Bourne had success with Josh McDaniels. And he did, but he had 55 for 800. Mack Hollins did it a year later, and he plays special teams, which is leading us into the road of conversing about which 6 wideouts are going to make the football team. I'm going to do a little bit of Phil's work for him. Mack Hollins, Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, and Kyle Williams are dead mortal locks. After that, we have, I believe, it's 6 to get 2 at most.
I'm giving Boutte a spot, and I think I'm stopping there.
Okay.
I don't know why you would have 6 other than on the off chance there's an injury. I just don't think you need that many. And unless it's a player that's going to have another role for you, particularly in the kicking game. Now, maybe you could look at Mack Hollins as your 6th, and you could say, well, he's going to be a core special teamer, so that's the guy you're talking about, Perry. So, why not just go?
And he's our depth wideout.
He's a depth wideout, so why not go? Diggs, Douglas, Boutte. Those are probably your top 3 based on what we've seen in camp, and then have Williams as your speed guy, and then have Kendrick Bourne, and then have Mack Hollins as sort of your gravy receiver. I just think he's going to be more than a gravy receiver in this offense. It looks to me like they're going to have a real plan for the guy based on his history with Josh McDaniels, which you just noted, but also based on how he was used. I know it was a walkthrough. It was a walkthrough, not a single competitive minute of work on the field today. However, it's important to note, the field's out here. On the right-hand side, you had Drake Maye's offense with the top 3 guys, Boutte, Douglas, and Diggs, and Mack Hollins. With Josh Dobbs on the other field here was Kendrick Bourne, Efton Chisholm, Kyle Williams. I don't think, it doesn't look like, Tom, Let me put it this way. If we didn't know what 84's name was or what his history was with Josh McDaniels, we haven't seen a single thing this camp to tell us, well, that guy should be on the roster.
Right.
Because he's repping with the reserves. He hasn't really worked with Drake Maye at all. And he's had flashes. He's had catches. He just hasn't elevated to the point where you have to make him a lock, even though I thought he would be coming into camp based on what he's done in the league already.
I would say make or break is going to be the 2 weeks of joint practices. Actually, not a hell of a lot, 2 weeks of them. There's one with the Commanders, and then a preseason game, and then there's the Minnesota Vikings. It's best that we keep close eyes on those practices as our bigger rocks that we're going to put on the scale of who makes it and who doesn't. But Phil's making a real good point, as Phil often does. That's why he's got a job with us. Meanwhile, as we converse about this depth chart, Efton Chisholm 3.
Hold. Can I stop you there?
There is no 3.
You've been saying it's the way you've said it. Do we just say 3 at the end? We don't say the third? Efton Chisholm 3? You were all over the Efton Chisholm 3 on our Instagram and TikTok video earlier, the Quick and Dirty Rap, which I know is very popular among the kids out there. I mean, everybody at home has probably already seen it, but they're probably saying the same thing to themselves. Efton Chisholm 3.
He gave me the green light to do whatever I want. I got a haircut yesterday.
Well, in that case.
He gave me I got a haircut yesterday, as you might have noticed yesterday, looking real good.
It is very sharp.
After that difficult one that I had in California, remember? Where I asked the girl to go 4, then to a 6, and then scissors up top, and she went 6 right up here. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. And I had that Eddie Munster thing. Well,
I'm sure everybody at home remembers exactly what you're talking about.
They do, because it was a ridiculously bad picture that we shared with everybody. But the guy around the corner here in Foxborough, and I can't remember the name of the place, but they're very nice. He said, he said, "Will you work in here?" I said, "I'm over at the stadium. I do the TV." He said, "Oh, yeah, I had one of the fellas there, Efton Chisholm, was in." I said, "Oh, yeah?" I said, "Does he have a tiny head?" He said, "He sure does." But he was a very nice kid. Very nice kid.
He does seem like an easy human being to be around. Boy, was he happy just to be here. What a great experience, and just to be with this organization and learn every day, wake up every day. Just a happy fella.
I did tell EF3 that I had gotten a haircut from the same guy, and he said, "Ah!" Like it really mattered to him.
EF3 actually makes more sense. It's when you go Efton Chisholm 3, that for some reason it's just really bothering me.
Okay.
So that's
Efton
probably
Chisholm
a me
3,
problem.
we had a chance to talk to him. And he's on the outside looking in, as an undrafted rookie would be. I think I got over my skis a little bit. You know, we do these ridiculous games on early edition. Everything's going to be a game. D block's a game time. Game time. Who's going to have a better season?
That's why Tom's never on the D block, which is the last segment of the show, if you ever noticed. But go ahead.
Who's going to have a better season? And I went and I said, which rookie will have the best season, Kyle Williams or Efton Chisholm 3? And I said Efton Chisholm 3.
In a landslide, I think.
In a landslide.
Yeah.
It's going to be a walk. He's going to have 71 catches. I think I did add that, which was hyperbolic and at least indicative that I just didn't want to play. But he's not going to have 71 catches this year, folks. I did ask him, however, about guys that he's watching and guys from Josh McDaniels' offense who he has watched. And I specifically said, you're watching Andy Edelman, or how about Danny Amendola? Because Danny Amendola is a true slot in this offense. Julian moved back and forth. And here's what Efton Chisholm 3 had to say about who he's watching.
Right now I'm watching 20, we got a cut up, and that's all of Amendola's catches and all the passes he's got even targets on. So I'm going through and watching that right now. So trying to just kind of see how he ran through his offense with McDaniels when he was here, and learn everything I can through that.
Interesting. You know, Danny Amendola kicked around the National Football League for 2 seasons. He was with the Cowboys. You might remember the first Hard Knocks? Uh-oh. We got a cart coming. He hit at the brakes. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Did we just ruin his whole day?
No, he's
just
smiling.
going to alter course. Where's he going?
Is
he going to go all the way back? Is he going to go around the stadium the long way and come back this way?
No, he's got a box of papers on a carriage, and it was nice of him to stop. And he stopped with a big grin.
Unbelievable.
Jonathan, where's our papers? It's a paper company.
One angry look from Tom Curran.
No, it was not angry. The
change
folks
a young
could see
man's
it. I just
entire day.
Be that as it may. He was on the first Hard Knocks with the Cowboys.
Right.
He was a great story with the Cowboys. Didn't make that team. He wound up on their practice squad. He goes to the Eagles, gets cut. He's on their practice squad. He gets signed by the Rams, catches 43 passes his first year. winds up his career with like 659 catches for 6,000 yards and 56 touchdowns and even more in the playoffs. So Efton Chisholm 3, you might not make the football team. I'm sure they'd love to get you on the practice squad. You could be Braxton Berrios someday. You could be Danny Amendola. Which brings me to the last thing I want.
Amendola's hand-eye was absurd.
He was also he jumped
so
like
silly.
Jumped like a cricket too.
Yeah, he didn't test great
He jumped
before becoming a pro, but he was a very good athlete.
jumped like a cricket. Tore both groins his first year with the Patriots. Had tore one before halftime against the Bills. Had like 10 catches. After halftime, he tore the other side. There he is. Thank you.
He did. He
Popped
went
out
all the way
door.
around.
That's all right.
5 minutes, he'll never get back.
It's Friday after. No, it's Thursday. So this is an interesting aside. So we were talking about Amendola, Alex Guerrero and I, because I got along with Alex real well. It's good to know the people who are close to the best quarterback of all time. And we were talking about Amendola. He goes, that groin thing, I could tell right away. I could just watch him walk. And Bill's like, what do you think of Amendola? He goes, those are going to tear because of
It's amazing.
because he was so tight when he walked.
Couldn't have been a SOAS situation.
No, tight. He said, he looked at him, he examined it, he goes, he's going to have to get those things a little bit more. And they tore. I do not doubt Guerrero. The guy's good at what he does. Meanwhile, one more conversation I'd like to have, since I got a little email from my buddy, I think it's Josh Barton. He sends out odds, and the odds for the 2026 Hall of Famers who are going to be on the list were put out. And there's a number of guys who are very good. The biggest name, Larry Fitzgerald, is like 95% of people thought he would get in. Drew Brees was like 60%, and then there's guys like, I'm just remembering now, it's like Julian Edelman and Des Bryant were way down the bottom. But Julian Edelman does have an interesting Hall of Fame candidacy, I think, in that you're looking at a guy who, if you compare him to Sterling Sharp, who's going to go in this weekend, Sterling Sharp had a 6-year career. Sterling Sharp, and I was just looking at it, I didn't write it down, I should have. But if you look at Edelman's career spanning from 2013 to 2020, it's very comparable in catches in the regular season to Sterling Sharp's. Now, Sterling Sharp was the best wide receiver in football for 6 seasons with Green Bay when Brett Favre was emerging. Led the league in catches, led the league in yards per catch, led the league in yards his final year. It was a terrible back injury, ended his career then. But if you look at Edelman's career, if you toss out the fact that he was a special teamer for 4 years and then just look from 2013 to 2019, he matches up, at least in terms of receptions and success, not personal success. He didn't go to any friggin' Pro Bowls either, with Sterling Sharp. But then when you throw in the postseason, if you extrapolate his postseason numbers, he would have been like a 112 catch, 1452 yard player if you put in his postseason. So I think it's comparable. I don't think he's ever going to get into Canton, but his candidacy is buttressed by guys like Lynn Swann, who got in a long time ago because of his electric playoff performances. And to me, Sterling Sharp's production over a short period of time, which Edelman had too, should at least argue for the fact that Julian Edelman, and when you throw in, it's one of the greatest playoff wide receivers in the history of football. Full stop. And then throw in the punt returns. And if you want to dismiss him as a byproduct of whatever, then start doing that with Jerry Rice or Joe Montana or everybody, fed off of Bill Walsh.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I do think his playoff resume is his best argument, because even if, and I know what you're saying in terms of just the smaller sample size of regular season success, if Sterling Sharp can get in based on his, and Edelman has a similar number of catches, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, Sterling played in 2 playoff games. He was friggin' amazing. I'll never forget the game.
But he was considered, and you mentioned it, you laid it out. He was considered the best in the league.
Best in the league.
Which Edelman, I don't know if in any of those regular seasons anybody at the end of the season is saying he's even a top 5 guy at his position.
Yep, and that's
we can argue the merits of that, but I think just generally speaking, people who are getting these guys into the Hall of Fame aren't going to look at Julian Edelman and the lack of Pro Bowls and the lack of all pros and say this guy has to be in. So I agree with you. I unfortunately for him, I don't think he's ever going to get in.
Nope.
But you can't deny that he was a critical, and after Tom Brady, maybe the most critical. Bill Belichick aside, in terms of guys on the field, the most critical piece to the second half of the Patriots dynasty. They don't win in 2014 without him. They don't win in 2016 without him. They don't win in 2018 without him. And he wins the Super Bowl MVP. So he is I'm one of these people who looks at the Hall of Fame as a type of museum.
I agree.
And if you can't tell the story of the league and of certain teams and dynastic teams for sure, without a given player, that player deserves a spot there. And so, if you're using that as your basis for who's in and who's out, to me, he would be in. I just don't think it's ever going to happen.
No, because people, I think, get consumed with Pro Bowls and All Pros and years that you led the league in X, Y, or Z, and not to use Andre Johnson as a guy who doesn't deserve to be in there, but let's use him as a comp. If you're lining up and you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to say, Jesus, what are we going to do with Andre Johnson? You're going to say the exact same thing with Edelman. Because
it's different, but yes.
Different, but the same. He used the same level of terror, but I think, I used to use A.J. Green as the best example. People would sit there and tell me that because A.J. Green compiled all these Pro Bowls, you would presume if you were just a guy sitting there watching, say, A.J. Green's a better wide receiver than Julian Edelman. No, he's not. We could contend that A.J. Green and Julian Edelman don't even play the same position because of the routes that they run are so vastly different. But even if you want to do that, Julian could run downfield routes too. So to me, if you try to objectively look at, okay, what are the guys who play this position? What do they provide? What's their production? He just didn't score enough. 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. That ain't enough.
He didn't. And
we probably have some questions, John.
We probably have questions that we have to look at here. I do want to push back a little bit. The same level of terror. Do you think defensive coordinators really feared Julian Edelman as much as they feared Andre Johnson?
Yeah.
Because I think I would disagree with that.
Yes.
I think they feared the combination of Brady and Edelman specifically on third down, but I don't think they were looking at Julian Edelman as the kind of guy like you got to have a safety over the top or he's going to break the game open kind of guy. Whereas if you didn't do that with Andre Johnson or Calvin Johnson or one of those types of true number ones,
I guess
the game was over.
Well, I think that Julian wasn't going to beat you on one play.
Right.
So
that's what I mean. So I think the fear is a little different.
The fear is with the free safety. They're not saying, oh, my God, we have to put somebody back on the lighthouse, as Felger memorably used to say about Devin McCourty. You're not going to have to put somebody back on the lighthouse, but you're going to have to put 3 guys in the middle of your defense, a safety, a corner, and a linebacker to deal with this guy. So it's a pain in the ass proposition.
He's an annoyance, for sure.
All right, we do have a few questions here. We're going to hang in there. I got EEI in just 5 minutes, so let's slam through this. John Henry, thanks for sending these along. We got 4 here. First up, Poppin' Fresh. Did Strange see any of the walkthrough at left guard or just at center? See any of that?
That's a good question.
Really...
I was not paying a whole lot of attention to Cole Strange and his whereabouts, but I think let's put more stock into what we saw in the padded practice yesterday. He was the backup center on a day where you were without your top center, which sort of indicates he's the third center on the roster. I think his path to a roster spot, if he's going to make it, Tom, would be he's got to play better and more consistently, but I like the idea of having a super sub interior lineman, the old Ted Karras corollary. If you could play center and both guard spots, that's worthy of a jersey on game day. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get there.
Fair. A lot of these questions are a little bit of what we've already discussed, but we appreciate guys like Taylor Williams banging in here. So he asks, how many offensive linemen and wide receivers do you see the Patriots keeping? Thank you, Taylor, for asking. Seems like history says 5 wideouts and a special teamer.
I get that's history. That's also, you had Matthew Slater here, who was sort of a rare bird and was technically a wide receiver, but was really a special teamer. I'm counting Matt Collins as a receiver. I think he's going to play more offensively than people think. So I've got a 53-man roster coming out on NBCSportsBoston.com. Check it out.
Check it out, yo.
There's only 5.
13 Architect, thank you, my friend. With Mac Hollins getting healthy, which wide receivers are out and why? We did discuss that, but I wanted to read that just so I could say 13 Architect. We appreciate your building our brand.
Nice job by you.
Taylor Williams.
Crack yourself up.
Asking the odds of Chisholm making the 53-man roster. I'm going to say it's less than 10. He would probably have to have an injury occur ahead of him to get him on there, and then we go up.
Yeah, can I just add to that? It might be a tick higher for me. I'm going to put it at 15, only because, Tom, is he not the kind of guy you could see sort of tearing it up in the preseason, and then Mike Vrabel saying, boy, if we let this guy go, another team's going to scoop him up. He's not going to play for us like tomorrow, but we should just hold on to him so another team doesn't get him and just develop him on the active roster.
I feel like that was the Braxton Berrios situation. Berrios was having a good camp in 2019. The Patriots released him. The Jets took him.
Yes.
And they kept Demaryius Thomas, R.I.P. And
they tried to sneak Berrios through by sitting him out of a preseason game. They were trying to avoid what I was just talking about with Chisholm. They said, yeah, you've got a hand, whatever it was. They held him out of a preseason game. I remember talking to him before that game. He was not happy. And they end up releasing him, hoping to get him back on the practice squad. The Jets were able to sniff out their plan, and they scooped him up anyway.
It's like the Corey Bojorquez move.
Yeah, exactly.
Taylor Williams asked the odds of Chisholm making the 53. I already said this, but odds of Gibson being the odd man out and keeping Larison, I'd say 0. Gibson's making the team.
I would agree with you on that, although I could see them creating a spot for Larison too. 3 guys at running back. I think a 4th who's going to play special teams, which I think Larison would have some value.
Practice squad at least. Is Kevin Harris still around?
Not here. He might be somewhere kicking around, but not in Foxborough.
No Pete Strong, no Kevin Harris. EEI calling in. They're 2 minutes early. Why would you do that? Listen, we appreciate you guys very much. We will not have one of these items tomorrow because it's an in-stadium practice. But we appreciate you guys banging it. Do you want to come in, Jeremy, with the booze and do this? Don't want with the booze, but anyway, we're going to wrap it up. They're calling me.
Okay.
Later on.
Bye.